The main character is an ordinary taxi driver living in Seoul with his young daughter. The two of them manage to get by on his daily income from driving a taxi. Recently, life has become much harder. Man Seob is nearly 100,000 won behind on his rent, and his landlord keeps pressuring him to pay. This situation is not entirely Man Seob's fault. At that time, South Korea is going through an extremely difficult period. In 1980, after 18 years of military dictatorship under Park Chung-hee, people began to hope for the arrival of a new democratic government. That hope quickly collapses when Chun Doo-won launches a coup on December 12, pushing the country into an even harsher dictatorship. Democracy movements erupt across the nation. Students and workers take to the streets to protest. In response, Chun Doo-won declares martial law, shuts down universities, bans strikes and enforces strict curfews. Seoul's streets grow quiet and empty. This deals a heavy blow to taxi drivers like Man Seob. To survive, he saves every penny he can, eating simple meals and even borrowing money from his landlord. Life remains hopeless until one day an unexpected opportunity appears. At a small restaurant for taxi drivers, Man Seob overhears a colleague bragging about a high-paying job. The man claims he was paid 100,000 won to drive a foreigner from Seoul to Gwangju, and then back again. Hearing that amount, Man Seob immediately jumps at the chance. He rushes out, determined to take the job before anyone else can. Outside a theater, Man Seob meets the passenger, Jürgen Hinspeter, a German journalist. After learning that the democratic uprising in Gwangju is being violently suppressed and covered up by the government, Jürgen decides to investigate it himself. Thanks to a local contact calling a taxi for him, Man Seob ends up driving Jürgen toward Gwangju. During the trip, Man Seob happily chats with him using his limited English. But when they reach the outskirts of Gwangju, their taxi is stopped by military forces. Threatened with losing his payment, Man Seob takes a detour and lies to the soldiers, claiming Jürgen is a foreign businessman who needs to sign an export contract. The excuse works and they are allowed to pass. Eventually, they make it into Gwangju. Man Seob immediately demands his payment, but Jürgen only gives him half, promising to pay the rest after they return to Seoul. With no other choice, Man Seob accepts the advance and continues driving deeper into the city. Soon, the taxi reaches downtown Gwangju, where an eerie silence fills the streets. Every shop is closed. Flyers and banners calling for the end of martial law are scattered everywhere. Jürgen begins filming everything he sees. Along the way, they encounter a group of students protesting from the back of a truck. When the students realize Jürgen is a foreign journalist, they excitedly invite him to join them. A student named Jae-sik, who speaks fluent English, offers to act as a translator. Only then does Man Seob fully realize who Jürgen really is. Although he feels uneasy about being kept in the dark, he awkwardly accepts the students' warm welcome. Jürgen wants to visit a hospital to interview the injured, and Man Seob agrees to follow behind. However, at a crossroads, Man Seob suddenly turns the taxi around and decides to head back to Seoul, afraid his car might be destroyed. In Man Seob's mind, South Korea is still a good country. To him, the protests are nothing more than trouble caused by reckless students. When Man Seob stops to refuel, he only asks for 3,000 won, but the attendant fills the tank a little more for free. The man explains that this is how people in Gwangju are helping struggling taxi drivers. At the same time, crowds are gathering at the station square to continue the protests. As the taxi enters the square, people break into applause. They welcome Jürgen Hinspeter, the foreign journalist who has come to report the truth, and Man Seob is warmly received as well. The citizens of Gwangju even bring them local food. Shortly after, Jürgen meets a local reporter, and the two secretly film the protest from a rooftop. Meanwhile, Man Seob sits calmly eating a pastry, seemingly detached from what is happening below. But the protest keeps growing. Military police soon flood the square and begin violently suppressing the crowd, beating and shooting unarmed civilians. This is the first time Man Seob witnesses such brutality from the military with his own eyes. Even so, he still tries to stay uninvolved, believing that nothing he does can change the situation. Jürgen and the local reporter decide to go down and film from up close. Man Seob tries to stop them but fails, and eventually follows behind. The square descends into chaos. Chants demanding Chun Doo-won's resignation mix with gunfire and thick smoke. Blood covers the ground, creating a scene too horrific for words. Standing in the middle of the crowd, Jürgen captures the truth on camera. The authorities soon notice Jürgen. Man Seob has to drag him through the sea of people and into the taxi. Barely escaping the chaos in time, Afterward, Man Seob is filled with anger at how the government treats its own people. As night falls, his only wish is to return to Seoul as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the taxi breaks down on the road. Luckily, the taxi drivers of Gwangju rush to help. Some of them even remove parts from their own cars to repair Man Seob's vehicle. Man Seob worries about his daughter back home, but all communication lines have been cut. The repairs take too long, and with a 9 p.m. curfew now in effect, he can no longer leave the city. Jurgen offers to pay for the repairs, but Man Seob firmly refuses, leading to an argument between the two. In the end, they have no choice but to spend the night at the home of a taxi driver named Wang. Over dinner, Man Seob slowly calms down. On television, the news places all the blame on the students, completely ignoring the massacre of civilians by the military. Still, there are journalists in Gwangju who risk their lives to print the truth. However, their reports are quickly stopped, and the newspapers are destroyed by their own editors. At this point, the only hope of revealing the truth to the world rests on Jurgen Hinspeter. He promises to release the footage internationally. Just then, an explosion echoes outside. The night of May 20th, 1980. Outraged by the lies on television, citizens set fire to the government-controlled broadcast station. Jurgen immediately goes out to film the scene, but he is spotted by secret police. During his escape, he drops one of his film reels. Jae-sik tries to retrieve it, but he is captured. Even under interrogation, he refuses to reveal Jurgen's whereabouts and urges him to escape. While running through the streets, Man Seob accidentally witnesses trucks filled with detained civilians being tortured. Before he can process what he is seeing, the secret police catch up to him and brutally beat him, accusing him of being a rioter. Fortunately, Jurgen manages to ambush the agents, allowing the two of them to escape and return to Wang's house. After witnessing the military's cruelty firsthand, Man Seob completely breaks down and begins to cry. He opens up about his past. Once worked in Saudi Arabia, earning good money, but nearly all of it went toward medical treatment for his wife. In the end, she passed away, leaving him with deep guilt and regret. After her death, Man Seob fell into alcoholism, until one day he saw his daughter clutching her mother's clothes and crying uncontrollably. From that moment on, he sobered up and devoted himself entirely to raising her. What he has seen in Gwangju nearly shatters him. Although he wants to stand with the people, Man Seob is still a father. He cannot allow his daughter to lose the last family member she has. Before dawn breaks, driven by concern for his child, Man Seob quietly leaves Gwangju. Jurgen and Wang do not stop him. Instead, they give him a shortcut map and a fake license plate to ensure his safety. Man Seob refuses to take any money. All he can do is bow his head and apologize in anguish. Thanks to the fake plate, he manages to leave Gwangju without incident. On the way back to Seoul, Man Seob calls his daughter and finally feels relieved when he learns that she is being taken care of by their landlord. He buys her a new pair of shoes, then stops by a small restaurant. There, he overhears people talking about Gwangju, repeating the false information spread by the government. The media claims that violent students caused the chaos, completely hiding the massacre of unarmed civilians by the military. The images from Gwangju continue to haunt Man Seob. In the end, unable to endure the weight on his conscience, he turns the taxi around and decides to return. Man Seob cannot abandon his passenger. When he goes back to Mr. Wang's house, he learns that Jurgen Hinspeter is now at the hospital and immediately rushes there. What he finds is a blood-soaked nightmare. Bodies are scattered everywhere, all of them civilians killed by the military. Among the dead is Jae-sik. To protect Jurgen and Man Seob during their escape, he was murdered by the secret police, his body carelessly discarded. Overcome with grief, Man Seob breaks down in tears and places the new shoes he bought on Jae-sik's feet. Even Jurgen is left speechless by the horror. Man Seob presses the camera into Jurgen's hands and urges him to keep filming, so the world can see this living hell. Through the lens, grieving families cry over their loved ones. Students cover the bodies with the national flag. There are too many dead, and the city runs out of coffins, forcing survivors to search everywhere. Hospitals overflow with victims, while taxi drivers continue to rush the injured in for treatment. One driver explains that people were only gathering to sing the national anthem, yet the military opened fire on them anyway. Jurgen wants to film the scene, and this time Man Seob firmly declares that he will escort him all the way. As they drive, military helicopters circle above, firing even at those trying to rescue others. Bodies line the streets, and cries echo everywhere. Man Seob and the other taxi drivers charge into the danger zone, using their taxis as shields and risking their lives to save civilians. Even so, The military responds with overwhelming force and the number of casualties continues to rise. Other journalists urge Jurgen to leave as soon as possible and get the truth out. The authorities soon identify Jurgen and begin chasing him. Using Mr. Wong's map, Man Seob leads Jurgen through narrow back roads, but they are stopped at a checkpoint. Man Seob hides the camera and film inside the taxi's headlights. After inspecting the vehicle, a sergeant recognizes Jurgen. Moved by his conscience, he allows them to pass. Moments later, new orders come down from above and soldiers immediately give chase. Man Seob floors the accelerator and escapes, but soon they are surrounded by secret police. At the most critical moment, Mr. Wong and a group of taxi drivers rush in, throwing themselves into danger to protect Jurgen. Thanks to their sacrifice, the pursuit is broken. In the end, Man Seob successfully delivers Jurgen Hinspeter to the airport. To avoid being arrested, Jurgen pretends to book a later flight, secretly switches to the earliest departure, hides the film reels inside a box of cookies, and leaves South Korea immediately. At the airport, Jurgen asks Man Seob for his name and contact information, promising to return after the footage is broadcast. Man Seob hesitates, then notices a pack of King's cigarettes in the taxi and gives Jurgen a false name and address instead. When he finally returns home, Man Seob reunites with his daughter. Though they have only been apart for a few days, it feels as if an entire lifetime has passed. After leaving Korea, Jurgen Hinspeter releases all of the footage, shocking the world with the truth of the Gwangju massacre. Over time, the story fades from public attention. When Jurgen later returns to search for Man Seob, he discovers that every piece of information he was given was false. The taxi driver who helped reveal the truth has vanished, never to be seen again. 23 years later, Jurgen Hinspeter received one of South Korea's most prestigious journalism awards for his reporting on Gwangju. In his acceptance speech, he expresses deep gratitude to Man Seob, saying that without the taxi driver's courage, the truth would never have reached the world. On a quiet street somewhere in the city, Man Seob is still driving his taxi. When he sees the news about Jurgen receiving the award, he smiles softly, carrying with him memories of Gwangju that will never fade. The film then reveals that Jurgen spent many years searching for Man Seob, but never succeeded. Even in 2016, he still regretted not being able to reunite with the taxi driver who once changed his life. The story is based on the real-life Gwangju massacre of May 18, 1980. Both Jurgen Hinspeter and Man Seob are real people. The Gwangju Democratic Movement ended in tragedy, and the truth was not officially revealed until 1988.